series, I wanted to walk through a series of midterm still life drawings that students have done in the past. Now, these were set up in the art studio, and so everybody on a big table in the middle of the room, everybody worked from the same setup. The only difference being everybody had different points of view. And each semester, the setup changed, right? So, what was stressed in here was the relationships, spatial relationships, size, how tall, how light, how light, how dark, right? Where objects were in relationship to each other. And so while all the prep work we did leading up to this drawing, I would talk to my students, the students, about where this lines up with this, where this lines up with this, where this lines up with this to this, and just keep expanding outward, even to there, to there, to there, to there, right? We did the negative space drawing, so you're thinking about the negative shapes around these objects. We've done perspective, so you're thinking about getting the right angle in here if you're looking at blocks or in here. That's all part of perspective, right? And then we also talked about how you wish to describe it, right? So now I know what I'm looking at here. I know I'm looking at one of those setups, but this student had tons of fun in terms of describing this bottle in here, or this actually, which is a black teapot there, and even in the stripes here in the fabric and some of the stripes in here. They took a big time freedom in here in terms of describing what happens in a negative space, okay? So that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for you to pay attention to size and placement relationships, value relationships, textural relationships, and I'm also looking for you to have some fun with how you describe something. All right, these objects. So here's the first one, right? And I would go like, there's some really great drawing going on in here. I feel like they're really solid with the spatial relationships. And I just think that there's your darkest dark. So what could we push the dark somewhere else in here so that that wasn't just the only area where that was that dark? Okay, so there's a point that I talk about, and I think I probably have mentioned it up until this point, which is at a certain time, the still life goes away and you are left with your drawing and you're thinking about how you can really make this drawing visually exciting. And it might be by taking a value in here and dropping in a darker value along that edge so that that teams up with this and starts to really create what I call a visual jiggle. All right? So there's number one. We'll get to number two eventually, I think. Oh, yes, and we're going to delete it. All right, here's number two, right? Now, this student really got into it because they really came up with a complex composition with a lot of information in here. And some of these, there's less information in here. And so I love this area stacked over in here. I love these striped fabrics pushing back in here. And look at that dark area there in relationship to this over in here, down into here, over into here and here. It really helps our eye move around. Now in the negative space here, they chose to do a gradient from this gray in here out to a white field. You can do that. What I've been talking to you about is no matter what you do, make it feel believable. Make it feel like, yes, you're invested in describing it. That's what I'm looking for in these drawings. Okay, now let's go to three. We'll delete that guy too. All right, there's number three. Right? Now look at what's happening over in here. This is very active over in here. They're really getting into dropping down the marks and re-racing back in here. Tons of energy in here and visual exploration in here in terms of describing what's happening with this ice bucket, right? And how it sits on top of these blocks in here, how it sits on top of this block and over in here. right? So once again, we have a very, very, very active drawing in here, right? Let's get rid of this guy. All right, here's another one. Now look right down in here. Look at the work they did on the reflections in here. I am loving that. Right, and then look at this up in here, how dark this is back in here, but it's got a gradient going on in it, right? And you can tell they really worked the surface. I'm loving this guy. This composition is like not as complex as the last one, but still it's pretty complex because of this happening here, up through here with these design elements, this over across, that striped fabric across, and then in here, and then up in here with this light watering can. Right? I'm loving this one. All right. There's another complex one, right? So I think the themes of what I'm talking about when we're looking at all these visual crispness and clarity, paying attention to spatial relationships, paying attention to value relationships, textual relationships, and then having fun with how you describe it. Look at this watering can. That's an anodized tin watering can, right? So you get that speckled kind of look on it. Oh my God, they did such a beautiful job in here describing this. And then here, that cheese grater in there too. And just quick marks to say, okay, there they are. Boom, 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 boom. The openings, right? This is some wonderful drawing through in here, right? Up in here, that gradient in the background again. All right. Number 6. Now this guy is an overall value, right? Now on the rubric it says a wide value range, a wide range of values. So I would say, like, could we push this a little darker in spots? And it starts starting to happen in areas, but is it enough? And I go like, okay, we could probably make other areas lighter and then push some areas darker. But what I really love about this is how they do pay attention to where objects fall in relationship to each other. And then they get into having a overall uniform textural sensibility about this drawing, which I really love a lot, right? You can see they're into the mark making process. All right, let's go on to the next one. All right, tin can in front of the fabric. I'm loving this one too because of how, what we might think it's simple, but if we zoom in on this bad boy, look at, it's probably generated with graphite pencil and charcoal pencil, maybe some willow in there. And they really work the fabric and the folds of the fabric around this watering can. I think the values in here could have been pushed a little bit and in here, but when we look at it overall, we go like, yeah, it's hanging on its own. It's feeling rather resolved, right? I do not have any major question marks about this, right? There's always possibilities of what you can do, and I think they're healthy to think about. Excuse me, but I don't think you want to overwork it. Like I go, the fold in here, could that have been handled any differently? Because it feels like branch-like from a tree, right? And the idea is to get the fabric to feel like it comes out from behind into that fold and then back down. And some of it might be directional marks going this way as opposed to up and down to talk about that shadow. All right, 2 more to go. Let's get out of here. All right, number 8. Right, look at what happens down in here. Now, this is where I go. I go down in here because the high contrast, right? And then I jump up in here because of these heavy shadows in here. But by the time I get over in here, like, look at the darks over in there. Do they really do it? I feel like there wants to be something happening in here and something more happening back behind this, right? But once again, I think about relationships. And I also think about, look at this cup in here, how it comes back here. There's the axis going through the cup. There's that oval there. It lies on the surface, like making sense there, but look at how the foot is. So, excuse me again, this arch in there and that arch in there are really important. They want to line up. Since this is flatter, gives me the idea that it's kind of curved in there when it's really not. All right, now for the last one. All right, again, lower right-hand corner. Look at that beautiful pot down in there. And then up into here, and then across. Now, this doesn't make sense in here, right? It feels like it's coming out of the box or something. It's flat. That should be curved a little bit, and this guy should be curved a little bit. These are question marks, and I call them question marks because, as I've said, I'm like not sure how I'm supposed to read it, and it's a problem area in the drawing. So when we're working through these, as you are working through these drawings, please, please, please map out your shapes first and then check for things like this, because it's easy to just draw that straight across. Because look at all that work that's happening in there and how beautiful that drawing is. Excuse me again. And then look in here what happens in here. Or over in here, look at how beautiful that is. I feel like they're very sensitive. They're getting into the describing, how they describe those objects. But then in here, bam, straight across. And in here, boom. And I feel like maybe if something's happening in here with the values just a little bit more, that would help. So that's about it. So you have some examples of what students have done. You guys are going to solve these drawings in your own way. And I think we've been talking about relationships and how you choose to describe the subject matter, right, for a while now. So I think whatever you get into, however you set up the still life, really get into it. Really get into it and get into messing with the materials so that you can get that visual crispness and clarity and visual weight and create a composition that's eye moving as well as creating surface undulation. I know you guys are going to do a great job. All right, we'll see you later. Bye.